Have you ever just, looked at a plant and really wondered, how does that work? How is it all put together? Well, think of this explainer as us getting our hands on the architectural blueprint for building a plant. We're going to look at all the materials, the main structures, and then uncover the two master designs that pretty much all plants follow. So let's get started and deconstruct this thing.
So really, what does it take to build a plant from the ground up? And I mean, let's look past the obvious stuff like soil and water. What are the actual fundamental building blocks? The tissues and organs that make a plant a plant. That's exactly what this blueprint is going to show us.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll lay out the parts of the plant we're actually talking about. Then, we'll dive into the three essential building blocks that make up everything. After that, we'll see how those blocks get put together to form the plant's main organs. And to wrap it all up, we'll reveal the two master designs that connect everything.
Okay, section 1, the plant blueprint. Before we can really understand the plant, we got to define what we're looking at. We're going to be focusing on what are called a plant's vegetative organs. These are the essential parts that make up its basic body.
And what that means is, for today, we're not going to worry about the reproductive stuff like flowers or seeds. We are zeroing in on the machinery that keeps the plant running day in and day out. Its roots, stems, and leaves. Basically, think of them as the foundation, the support beams, and the solar panels.
So let's talk about the building blocks themselves. Get this, every single part of a plant, from the tiniest root hair to a giant leaf, is made from just three fundamental types of tissue. That's it. You can think of them as the concrete, the steel frame, and the wiring of our plant building.
First on the list is dermal tissue. This is basically the plant's skin. And just like the siding on a house, its main job is to protect everything on the inside from the big bad world outside. We're talking pests, injuries, and most importantly, from drying out.
And this protective siding, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal. Oh no. On a young, flexible green stem, you've got this thin layer called the epidermis. But on a tree, that gets replaced by something way tougher, way thicker, the periderm. It's what we usually just call bark. So you see, it's two different solutions to the very same problem, protection.
Okay, our second building block is ground tissue. So if dermal tissue is the siding, then ground tissue is, well, it's pretty much everything else inside the walls. It's the insulation, the drywall, the foundation. It fills up all the space, and honestly, it does most of the heavy lifting for the plant.
Now, ground tissue isn't just one thing. It's really a team of three specialists. You've got parenchyma, which are the workhorse cells doing photosynthesis. Then there's collenchyma, giving flexible support. That's the stuff that gives a celery stalk that really satisfying snap. And finally, you have sclerenchyma for hard, rigid support. I mean, the shell of a walnut, that's pure sclerenchyma. And to get that incredible strength, the cells are actually dead when they're mature. The plant literally builds the super strong, lightweight armor. It's pretty amazing.
And that brings us to our third and final building block, the vascular tissue. This is the absolute critical infrastructure of the plant. It's the plumbing, pulling water up from the soil, and it's the electrical wiring, sending energy from the solar panels, the leaves, out to the rest of the building. Without it, nothing works.
And it's just such an elegant two-part system. First, you have the xylem. Think of it as a one-way street, moving water and minerals only up from the roots. Then you've got the phloem, which is a two-way delivery network. It takes all the sugars made during photosynthesis and sends them wherever they're needed, up, down, all around. The phloem makes sure the energy gets there.
Okay, so we've got our three building blocks: dermal, ground, and vascular tissue. We've got our materials. Now let's see how the blueprint actually assembles them into the three main vegetative organs, the functional rooms of our plant.
We're going to start at the bottom, at the foundation, the roots. Their job is basically a trifecta. 1. Anchor the plant so it doesn't fall over. 2. Absorb all the water and nutrients from the soil. And 3, in a lot of cases, act as a pantry for storing energy.
And when it comes to foundations, plants have two main strategies. Some, like grasses, go for a fibrous root system. It's like a dense mat that's amazing at soaking up surface water and holding onto soil. Others, like carrots, develop a taproot, one single beefy root that drills deep looking for water and also acts as a giant storage tank for nutrients. Now, if we could zoom way in and look at a cross-section of a root, check this out. The plumbing, that vascular tissue, is bundled right there in the center. And this just makes perfect sense from an engineering standpoint. It creates a really strong, solid core to anchor the plant, and it lets that water get sent straight up to the rest of the plant as efficiently as possible.
All right, moving up from the foundation, we've got the stem. The stem is the main support column, yeah, but it's also the superhighway that connects the roots down below to the leaves way up top.
And when you look closely at a stem structure, you realize it's way more than just a stick. You've got these nodes, which are the spots where leaves pop out, and you have buds, which hold all the potential for new growth. You can literally read a plant's history by looking at the scars left behind from buds of years past.
And finally, at the top of the stem, we arrive at the leaves. These things are the solar panels and the kitchens of the plant. This is where the real magic happens. Photosynthesis. Now, for a leaf to do its job, it has to be able to breathe. It needs to take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen. And it does this through thousands of tiny, adjustable little pores on its surface called stomata. They're like these little windows that the plant can open and close whenever it needs to.
So, we have the materials and we have the rooms. But how does it all come together? This right here is the climax of the blueprint. Because it turns out that almost all flowering plants are put together using one of just two master designs. They are either monocots or dicots.
This is the master key to everything. From the very first leaf that sprouts from the seed, to the pattern of the veins in the leaves, to how the plumbing is arranged in the stem, even the type of root system, it all follows one of these two distinct patterns. You see it here. Monocots, like corn, have those parallel veins and fibrous roots. Dicots, like a bean plant, have branched veins and a main taproot. It is a complete, system-wide design philosophy.
So why the funny names? Monocot, dicot? Well, it all comes down to the very first leaf that appears from the seed, which is called a cotyledon. And just like the names say, a monocot, mono for one, emerges with just a single seed leaf. A dicot, di for two, sprouts with two. It's the very first clue that tells you which blueprint that plant is built from.
And this all leads to one last really crucial difference. All plants get taller, we call that primary growth. But only some plants can get wider. That's called secondary growth. And this ability to bulk up is almost exclusively a trait of dicots. It's the whole reason a stalk of corn, which is a monocot, stays pretty skinny, while an oak tree, a dicot, can grow to be absolutely massive. It's all written right there in the blueprint.
So there you have it. We've deconstructed the blueprint for a plant, from its basic tissues and organs, right up to the two master designs that govern their construction. The next time you're outside, you're not just going to see a bunch of green stuff. You're going to see these blueprints in action, everywhere you look. So the only question left is, now that you've seen the design for the trees, how will you see the forest?